everybody taking coming in the Street Hype. Tune in once again. We got an exciting show. We down here in Hampton, Virginia. We're going to introduce an elder today. We'll tell y'all who he is. Explain you who you are, brother.
My name is Khalif Kahlifah.
Right.
I am a publisher here in Hampton County, Virginia, on the land of Nat Turner's birth. We're in the library that was founded by Khalif Kahlifah to preserve, to correct, preserve, and propagate the proper history of black people.
Now, you were saying something earlier about Nat Turner. For those who may not really understand, we're going to go on a little tour in a few minutes and kind of show some of the markers of that Nat Turner took. But tell us a little briefly about who is Nat Turner and why you came here to this establishment, right?
Well, Nat Turner was one of those numerous would-be liberators of black people. They met, they understood the nature of the beast that they were struggling to get their freedom from, and they came up with a plan. There were many who had plans that acted out those plans that you don't read about, but many did. But more planned, but never did the act. Nat Turner both planned and he acted, and he killed the slave master in more numbers than any of our other people. That's because he was wise and he was determined to free every black man, woman, and child. He was the best freedom fighter that this country has ever seen.
Now, y'all was hearing you earlier, you saying there's people that may be coming in and taking their history now and they're invested in the trails, right? Now, can you kind of touch base with that? Now, people that can come down here, is it a fee or whatever? Do you let people go on the trails? Do y'all show them tours for a small fee? Or how y'all do that?
There's Nat Turner Trail Tours. Okay. It's part of our business. It's part of what we do to support Kujichaqulia village.
Okay, this is what this is called.
The Nat Turner Library is in the Nat Turner building, and the Nat Turner building is in Kujichaqulia village.
Okay, cool.
It's like a village.
Okay.
And this is one of the institutions in the village. And so we conduct the tours. We'll do them on demand, but if it's an individual, it's going to be $60.
$60 for individuals? Okay.
Yeah. Now, if more than 6, that fee will drop to $20.
To $20 more than 6 people. So you got to bring a little plan with you when you come, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For make it worth your time. And wow, it's very knowledgeable. Well, we ain't going to take up too much of your time, Elder. You know what I'm saying? We'll go on this tour right quick and see what we can find out about Nat Turner.
Okay, great.
Sounds good. Didn't know? Okay, it's part of the information we need to know. Okay, 1786. Okay, Nat Turner built this. That's respect. Oh, Benjamin Turner.
Nat Turner, slave master built. Benjamin Turner. He built this church, say in 1786. Up until that time, the American Revolutionary War, the only legal religion was the Anglican Church. The Anglican Church. But after the people defeated England, they didn't want to have anything to do with the Anglican Church anymore. So they started building Protestant churches. I think the Anglican Church is still operating, but this is it. I usually have people come here, they take pictures in front of it. And the date is up on the wall there, you can see what the date is. And then Benjamin Turner had a falling out with them, and he left there and went to another church. But the church stayed up. And it was all white until a few years ago when I guess they made a proposal to get some government money. So they invited black people.
Khalif Kahlifah, to clarify, the church, Nat Turner used to preach in the church that was here prior to this one. This isn't the actual building, it was reconstructed, but this was the site.
this was, as far as I know, this is the church.
Oh, that's the actual same building.
That's the actual church.
Oh, okay.
But Nat Turner attended this. You know, they had a place inside the church in the balcony
Okay.
for black people. But they let him preach here.
Okay.
But in that place right there in that corner on the yard, that's where it said Nat Turner used to have his congregation, his,
Wow.
his
Okay.
speeches.
Well, where that van at? Right?
Yeah, where that van is, that
Truck
part
right
out there.
But that's likely to be the same physical building then.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
I would say that.
All right. It probably is because the outside, they probably just put that on top of the original
right,
structure.
that's all. Just put more.
Now, you sure Nat Turner didn't live here?
Right.
Was that a place? I think he was on the day of the revolt. He showed up late. We know he was taking care of his safe houses. And he probably spent some time at home with his children, wife and children. So we walk up this way and get up here just to pay our respects. I know where the cabin was. That's what it looked like when we first came into the area.
You see? Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, it used to be down this way, you saying?
Yeah, at the top of this hill here, over there, before you get to the woods. When
Okay.
we come back next time, Brent, come back in a bus so we can
Right.
do a Nat Turner. Nat Turner's living descendants own this land. It's 380 acres. It's owned by Nat Turner's living descendants. How they managed to get it and keep it, that's another story. But it wasn't, I have people ask me, did Nat Turner own the land? Of course, you know, that kind of gives away where the mentality was. Slaves didn't own anything. They were owned by somebody. But anyway, this is where Nat Turner's wife, her name was Cherry, and this is what the house looked like that they lived in when I first came in here. And people used to take pieces of it as souvenirs, and I used to have to stop them. After they tore it down, I wish I had left it alone. Now, this land has a particular kind of a history right now because the one who's leasing the land, these are not the people who own the land. They're being leased by a family named Francis. The Francis family was about the fifth family that was attacked. As a matter of fact, a family member of the Francis, Khalif Francis, was attacked second only to Joseph Travis. When you saw me put my hand up back there and point out to the field, that's where Joseph Travis lived at the time of the revolt. And close to that is the place where the Francis guy lived. Now the Francis family leased this land from Nat Turner's descendants. And a couple of years, or the year before they tore the cabin down, Alvin Turner, he told me that he understood that this cabin was not authentic. The cracker was whispering to him then, discrediting what was on their land, one of the most valuable places in our history. And from here, straight back through the woods is where you could go to visit the caves, where he was finally captured. The next place we're going to go past is a place called Cabin Pond. Cabin Pond is the place where they made the last preparations before launching the revolt. That was on August the 21st, 1831. They met there, and Nat Turner had confided in 4 of his trusted lieutenants after receiving a sign back on February the 12th, 1831. Up until that time, you know, he came back to the plantation. He became that community organizer as part of his plan to gather force and weapons, human resources and weapons. So, and he was not to confide in anyone until he received a particular sign. And he got that sign on February the 12th, 1831. And when he received that sign, then he confided in 4 of his lieutenants, Hawk, Sam, Nelson, and Travis. No, so they met there, and when Nat Turner came to the meeting late, and when he got there was only 2 new recruits there. He had told them to confide in others that they could trust like he trusted them. They only found 2. And when he came up, he confronted the 2. That was new. And this is what he said. I saluted them on coming up and asked Will, how came he there? He answered his life was worth no more than others, and his liberty is dear to him. I asked him if he thought to obtain it. He said he would or lose his life. This was enough to put him in full confidence. He said Jack he knew was only a tool in the hands of Hawk. It was then quickly agreed on we should commence at the home of Joseph Travis on that night. And until we had armed and equipped ourselves and gathered sufficient force, neither age nor sex was to be spared. So they had the marching orders, they had the plan of attack. They were going to attack and they were going to kill everything in the house that was white. First they were going to this was going to free the captives and recruit people into the army. That was the basic plan. And it was agreed as they were approaching the first house they were going to attack, Nat Turner's so-called slave owner, that child that had the title of owner of Nat Turner, but he was the overseer of him was Joseph Travis. So they approached the house of Joseph Travis, and there was a fellow with Nat Turner called Will. From that point on, he would be known as Will the Executioner. He carried a broad axe. And as you might know, a broad axe is like the truth that Minister Malcolm talked about. It cuts both ways. So he was with Nat Turner. He was going to bash the front door in, but Nat Turner wouldn't let him do that. He said he didn't want to create a commotion in the neighborhood. So he knew a private way to get into the house. And they traveled up the back part of the house, and Nat Turner, according to his confessions now, he found himself in the bedroom of his master, and the master was asleep. And he was armed with a sword. And he was going to cut his head off, but in the dark he hit him a glancing blow, and the cracker jumped up and called his wife, who was in the next bed. But Will took his head off, and then his wife jumped up, but Nat Turner said she woke up only to sleep, the sleep of death. And from then on, they carried out their plans in that house. They took their weapons, they took their money, they took their horses, and they took whatever slaves would travel with them. They got one recruit there, a guy named Austin.
Out of how many?
There's no recording on how many slaves they own. I haven't seen any. Good question, though. Good question. Okay, from there, then they marched to the next one in the order. And when I pointed out the field on the left coming in, and on the right coming in, that was the place where Joseph Travis lived. And nearby was the place where they attacked the next one. And then after that, they went on to the Porter House. And along the way, they got to, after they killed about, they said the first 15. The first 15 was killed. Then they split the army into 2. One part of the army went on the walking path to Henry Bryant's house, another plantation owner. And Nat Turner with the arms, the brothers who was on the horses, they went to a place for Margaret Whitehead. Now that name may sound familiar. Margaret Whitehead is the only Caucasian that Nat Turner took credit for killing. And that is the one that, what's the guy, William Styron. This is the one that they distort most of the history about Nat Turner. They say he did all of that killing for the love of a white woman. They don't want to give him, well, we don't expect them to. But anyway, he killed Margaret Whitehead, and then they killed another, I think it was another 4 there. They took 4 there. I got a paper there with the count. I keep count when I read. Yeah. So then they went to the next house, And when they got to the porterhouse, which was about the 6th, that family had gone, escaped. And somebody told them. And they knew who it was. That first house they attacked, there was a slave there that they knew was a snitch. And he ran, they knew. So they took a shot at him, but they missed. But anyway, the porterhouse was going. We're going to go to the porterhouse. That's one of the few structures that's still standing. And they have a cemetery out there where you can see the name of these crackers, where they're buried. Somebody already took the tombstone from the Porter place. His hole is there. His wife's tombstone is there. I don't know who got the other one.
Wow.
But anyway, that's what that'll be the next stop. But we're gonna go slowly past Cabin Pond because that is a very key place. That is the place where they staged the revolt, and it is the first place that Nat Turner retreated to when he came back. After he had the 17 victories, then he tasted defeat and he went into a retreat. And anybody who studied warfare, you know advancing is the way to go in a revolt or in a war. But retreating is very much a part of the plans, and Nat Turner planned it. Don't ever let anybody try to convince you, or don't listen to anything else they say if they tell you Nat Turner did it on the spur of the moment. He was planning this revolt from the time that he came back to the plantation. And that is key for us. We must plan. And we can do. Now, anybody who's ever minded to do what Nat Turner did, repeated that, I will never tell you not to do it. But if I was giving you advice, I'll tell you don't do anything like that unless you have the skill set. I had too many people in my generation got messed up, fronting, acting like they're revolutionaries. Then they get Caucasians come in there and kill them. Some are in prison were not even revolutionaries. You know, now we have some genuine revolutionaries. Anybody know about RAM, the Revolutionary Action Movement? Herman Ferguson? Some of my generation did fight back. When they talk about the rebellions during the 1960s, spontaneous, black people going wild, rioting and stuff, don't ever believe that again after today. That was the work of RAM, fomenting the revolt. That's what revolutionaries do. They did the walls, you know. They sniped it at police. They brought them out and shot at them when they came responding. And I'm not telling you anything that's dangerous. It's a matter of public record now. And when they brought the Black Liberation Army members to trial, the ones that they were able to catch, I was the only black reporter in the courtroom for Matula Shakur and others who freed Assata Shakur. I was the only one in there. And I wrote about it. So don't believe revolutionary warfare, which is during the reparations part. There's another part of reparations that this Caucasian don't want you to know. He don't want you to know what reparations is called when somebody like Nat Turner organized a Black Liberation Army. That kind of reparations is called expropriation. That's where you kill your enemy and take his possession, take back your possessions with interest. The only thing I've heard Zulu Shabazz say recently that made any sense to me, I mean, he said a lot of things that make sense before, but he made a speech there during Cobra. He said, we want to get back all our possessions, get back all our valuables with interest, and we want some lives. See, that's the kind of loose talk that you have to be careful about.
We're livingsuperfood.com. This is the Conscious Rasta Kidi of Wadu. Check me out on Facebook, livingsuperfood.com. Hang out. Each and every one of you. What a joy it has been to meet you all. Coming out of the Chesapeake Bay area, Conscious Rasta, aka Chef Kidi, is in your ear. We talk about living superfood. Let your food be your medicine, and medicine ain't never tasted like this one. Yeah, do check us out on the web, www.livingsuperfood.com. You can't miss. What do Superman and Superwomen eat? Living superfood.
You want to do some work, don't get caught up in chump kind of stuff. You know, you don't have to join the movement. You don't have to be with Dr. Umar or trying to help Kahlifah to establish the Nat Turner Library, but just run your life in an honorable way. Don't let them trick you into being what Steve Biko told you, where you'll be a tool. The greatest tool in the hands of the white supremacists is our mind. That's what he said. So just try to avoid that. And I'm sorry I got on a soapbox.
That's all right. That's all right. Give us that knowledge. Feed us.
Where Nat Turner learned the art of war or military strategy?
There's no documentation. He didn't give that away if he had it. And he was tortured. He didn't give it up. But we know that he did study war. At that first house that he attacked, where he took out Joseph Travis, he had his only maneuvers that he ran his army members through, and that's where he took them through paces, you know, for drilling. And those of us who've been in the military, we know drilling is very much a part of the discipline. They're putting discipline in the soldiers, and Nat Turner commanded strict discipline with those soldiers, all the way through battle 17. But when they got to battle 18, they kind of came apart there. Nat Turner had a plan. He was coming from a place called Bethlehem, back in the area where we are now. I know it's border right now, but down there in the area where I am, that's called the Bethlehem. But he was on his way to Jerusalem. Jerusalem at that time was the county seat. And he was trying to get to the county seat because that's where the armory was. That's where they had the arms. And he wanted to arm his army. And so anybody who want to play down the possibilities of Nat Turner being successful in what he was after, don't pay no attention to them. Study for yourself or tell them they're lying. He had a good chance. Obviously, they don't know about the Vietnam War. Malcolm told you about the little rice farmers who ran him out of Southeast Asia. And Malcolm said that before the end of the war. They shot Malcolm down in 1965. But you just got to get and think for yourself. What he was doing, there's always been speculation about what was on his mind. Where was the army going to go? If they got to Jerusalem and got the arms, would they then go back where they had already traveled? No. I submit to you, I haven't seen any documentation to this now, but they went to Jerusalem. They were going to march into the Disma Swamp. The Disma Swamp is full of vegetation. It's like a rainforest. If the slaves got into the Disma Swamp, they would hook up with the settlement that was already there. There was already Maroons in that Disma Swamp. The Caucasians used to run into the Disma Swamp after them when they ran away. But so many Caucasians ran in there but never came back out. They got out of that habit. But we know that that's where he was planning to conduct guerrilla warfare, which would give him the best chance to win, to be victorious. But after he got to within 2 miles of Jerusalem, this Parker plantation, they owned so many slaves, and so many of the people in the army had relatives and friends that were sold to this guy. and they were in a good mood. They were jubilant, and they wanted to go in. I don't know if they disobeyed him, but they disagreed with that. And Nat Turner, rather than create any kind of schism in his ranks, he allowed them to go in, but told them to come back out as soon as they could. It took so long, Nat Turner went in to get them, to bring them back out. And then when he came back out, that's when he ran into a small militia. There were a lot of militias all over the county looking for him. But this militia happened up on him. I think it was by accident. They say they were tracking him, or maybe they were. But according to the leader of that militia, he said he gave the order to his people not to fire until they got within 50 feet of Nat Turner's army. So they were marching, and Nat Turner told his army to stop. Good question about military science. He told them to stop and form. But the cracker didn't have the kind of discipline. Somebody fired before they got within striking distance. And after that, it was all over. After they unloaded, they had muskets back then. They had to reload. And Nat Turner overran them. Put them on the run, but he ran over an embankment and chased them over in there into the arms of the regular army that was also looking for him. And that's where he tasted his first defeat. So they went into a retreat. He didn't give up. He still knew a private way to get to Jerusalem. He tried that. He said he went to the Cypress Bridge, and it was armed. So he went into a deeper retreat, going back in the general direction in which the army had traveled. And that reminds me, one of the things that I asked Mr. McGee was, why didn't they tear the houses down? Why didn't they burn the houses? He said, Nat Turner, they didn't burn them because they expected to come back and live in them. They had liberated this land. The Caucasian had left it, the ones who didn't have heart attacks or strokes. I mean, that was the death rate of Caucasians during that revolt, man, is astronomical. But we took more casualties than we can count. They took it out on our people, slaughtered us. Yeah, they did, which is one of the reasons why we ain't never give up. Don't never give up. And take pictures up next to this one. And I want to point out the insignia of Virginia. They still have that crazy picture.
Yeah, they do.
What about that picture right quick, Elder?
They got the foot on the neck of the black man. And then in the right hand, they got a sword that used to be an Indian scalp, a scalp.
Gotcha.
Also, the original one is a picture of a black person on the bottom?
Yeah.
No, the original one had the Indian head in his right hand, but he kept his neck on our neck. And this will tell you that he can do anything.
That's the cars do drive fast
anybody on the planet, be they black or whoever.
Peace, brother.
But until it comes to you, until it comes to the black man and woman born here in the United States of America, you are the one he will never voluntarily pay reparations to. Anything that's paid to you will come in the form of welfare or some other pacification kind of a program to quell the revolt. That's because we are key to the liberation of black people worldwide. If we get it together, we'll get the rest of the world together. Don't be deceived in thinking the solution is in Africa. The solution is in you. If you want to go to Africa and rest or build a home there and retire there, fine. But don't go there thinking you're going to liberate anybody in the United States of America. You don't know who the enemy is there. They will do the CIA a favor and take care of you. So you just be aware of what you're there. The best place to raise the struggle is right here, with wisdom.